Here's the Deal is brought to you by VEBS, Veteran Essential Business Services. We are your business air support. We have your six. You served your country faithfully. Now it's time to blaze your own path. Here's the Deal is a show for veterans, by veterans, to discuss real-world issues on how to start and run your own business. It's a cross between Dave Ramsey, Maria Bartiromo, and Joe Rogan. This is not academia. It's the truth. Here's the deal. Here's the Deal is proud to present our very first sponsor. It's B&G Chicago Catering. If you're in the mood for fresh, authentic Chicago-style favorites, check out B&G Chicago Catering. Founded by two Marine vets, and no, there's no crayon flavors involved here. B&G Chicago Catering is professional mobile food cart service, well-suited for large crowds and intimate gatherings. Currently serving the Metro Phoenix and Metro Tucson areas. B&G Chicago Catering will drive up to your next event, business storefront, or private party. Chicago classics like Chicago dogs, my personal favorite is the Italian beef, bratwurst, Polish sausage. They got tamales and more. All their food is made to order, hot and fresh, using only Vienna products. B&G Chicago Catering comes fully equipped and takes care of all the cleanup. So if you're looking for a way to give back to your employees and all the efforts they've been putting forth this year, need a last-minute option for a small, intimate birthday party, need to spotlight your storefront reopening, which hopefully they all get there soon, check out B&G Chicago Catering. You can find them at www.bgchicagocatering.com. You can follow on Instagram at BG Chicago Catering 520. Give them a call at 520-262-7596. Hey everybody, how's it going? This is your host, Chris Flowers. Here's the Deal. I'm proud to announce the partnership between the City of Surprise and the AZ Tech Accelerator, where the show is now coming to you from. City Surprise, known them for years, Julie Neal, the whole economic development team, the mayor. They're great for small business. They really go all out. They actually repurposed their old city hall. They could have sold the property, they could have leased it out, whatever, but what they did is they repurposed it as an innovation hub for small businesses here in the City of Surprise. They do technology, innovation, collaborative co-workspace, so you have that shared workspace that a lot of people like to use now rather than leasing an expensive office space. They also even have small business resource counseling, where I'm a speaker on business lending here quite a bit. And also they have free education webinars. So if you're a small business and you're located near the City of Surprise, maybe you're working from home, kind of outgrowing your space. You want to be around some maybe some other people to get innovative and collaborative, things like that. Come check out AZ Tech Accelerator. Come talk to Julie Neal. She's the host here. She takes care of it. This is her baby. So come talk to Julie, and you'll find that working with the City Surprise is a great resource for you and your business. Hey everybody, how you doing? My name is Chris Flowers. I am the host of Here's the Deal, and I have Sierra Wolfe with me, and she is the host of
Business Salesmanship, the art of selling your business.
Perfect. Now, we're going to do this a little different, okay? This is going to be, like I said, this is going to be a different show, because what's going to happen is Sierra's going to interview me for her podcast, and I'm going to interview hers for Here's the Deal. So you're going to hear questions going back and forth, so it's going to be a little different. So either it's going to be, off the rails, or it's going to be off the chain. We just don't know which one we're going to get yet, but we're going to have fun doing it no matter what. Now,
that's right.
Sierra, let me set some ground rules here. I don't know what your podcast is like, so if I need to be all PG and whatnot, I'll try to control my language as best I can. But on my show, being that it's a veteran podcast, I rate it V for veteran language. It gets a little salty sometimes. You tell me what the ground rules are. I can clean it up as much as you want, or we could just do our thing. Just what your call. Your show. I don't want to offend your listeners. You can't offend mine. So go ahead. Tell me the rules.
No, that sounds great. You speak however you choose to speak. I'm sure my listeners will greatly appreciate the difference in my guests on. So I think that's wonderful.
Okay, well, you just fucked up. Okay, just want to let you know. Okay.
Sorry, all my listeners. I apologize. Be ready.
Okay, I'm just messing around. I'll keep it clean, sort of. So. Okay, so I will of course be a gentleman and let ladies go first, and I will let you start your show, and you can ask me some questions, and we'll just go kind of back and forth from there. So Sierra, the mic is yours. Go for it.
Well, thank you. All of my listeners, Chris is a lender, which I love having lenders on the podcast because it is the most critical piece in purchasing a business. If you don't have funding in place, you're not going to be able to purchase something. So usually, Chris, I have my guests talk a little bit about themselves, and I'm not sure if you want to take it over and talk about yourself.
Sure, that's not a problem at all. So, yes, I am Chris Flowers. I am an SBA lender. I have been in this business for 25 years. Okay, I've worked with business owners of all types, from complicated medical practices all the way down to mom and pop shops, retail stores, barber shops, you name it. So I've been doing this a long time. Seen a lot of deals, done a lot of deals, and what I want to express out there to all the listeners, my listeners included, because what I do on my show is that I'm trying to inspire veterans to, pursue their own passions and start their own business, but I'm also trying to give them the correct tools and the steps to do it properly. So, as Sierra was saying, finance is the key component, of course, to everything. You got to have passion, you got to have drive, but without the dollar bills, stuff don't make sense. You know what I'm saying? So, the one thing that is crucial when you're going to start a business, first and foremost, and I ran this on my first show, or I think it was the second show. You cannot go Cortez. Okay, do not burn the ships. Okay, don't have this. We're not. Passion and drive, of course, are everything. You got to have passion. You got to have drive, because you're gonna have to really grit your teeth and grind this out. Okay, but don't go Cortez, burning the ships. Meaning, quit your job, cash in your 401k, spend all your savings, max out your credit cards, take out a home equity against your house, and then come to me and ask me for a loan. Because by then, that ship sailed. Okay, it's over. So it's going to be impossible for me to get you money. Okay, so what I want you to do is, like I said, because like I said, there's different ways we do it, and I believe in the Dave Ramsey philosophy of the only ship that doesn't float's a partnership. So, like I said, getting into partnerships. If you get into a partnership, you got to have an ironclad operating agreement. You are going to do this job. You're going to do this job, and if anybody falls short, then they're accountable. If you go into it with a handshake, you're screwing yourself. So, I don't care if it's your best friend, your sister, your brother. You better have an ironclad operating agreement. Who's going to do what and when? Because if you don't, one person's going to do all the work, the other one's going to be at the golf course, and they're going to expect equal pay, and that don't fly. But you're going to do it on your own. There's several different ways we can do it. We can put it in stages. Okay, we can get it prepped up and ready to go. And I try to do it for the minimal amount of money that you can put in, but enough to let the banks know, okay, hey, we're serious about this, okay? So we're going to have to require, maybe between 10 to 20%, cash injection, depending on what type of business that you're running. Some are more risky than others, so they're going to want a little more skin in the game. There's no 100% financing, okay? There just isn't any. This is not like buying a house, so don't expect you're going to get 100% financing, because it doesn't work that way.
And something to say to that, you mentioned partnerships, and I sell businesses that have partners, and it is significantly more challenging than selling any other business. And it's because you're trying to take care of many people, and all of them have their own goals.
Yes.
So one might want retirement, one may want to continue working, and then you have this division. And then those partners each have their own accountants typically, or sometimes they'll have the company accountant or CPA, and then their personal ones, and then they have the same attorney. And so how is everybody getting the fair trade? Because you have the same counsel. So how is your counsel advising you correctly? And I represent both of them because I'm selling the entire business. And so partnerships are great, right? We love partnerships. However, you are opening up a whole other can of worms. It's going to be a lifelong partnership.
Yep.
It's almost worse than a marriage, because with a marriage, they've made it so easy. Now you get a divorce, right? You split your assets, you get a divorce. With a business, woo, good luck to you. It's much more challenging. You have to buy people out, and nobody's ever happy. There's just nobody ever happy in a partnership. So,
yep. That's like I said. That's what the only ship that don't float to partnership. That's what Dave Ramsey says, and I believe in it. So
yeah, it's difficult. It is. I feel like people just want to do things as a pair or, a trio, and it just is. I'm working on a deal right now where one partner owns 80%, the other partner owns 20, and the partner that owns 20 isn't doing anything, but they're getting a nice paycheck. And so it's like the 80% partner wants to buy them out. But if I was at 20% partner, I wouldn't let them. Gosh, I'm getting a nice paycheck and I'm not doing anything for it. Why would I want you to buy?
Why would I want to go start? Yeah, why would I go actually have to go back to working for a living? So
yeah, no, I'm good. I'll just stay with my 20. And so that's the challenging things with partnerships is truly it's almost worse than a marriage.
Yeah, so kind of like I said, so I guess since we brought marriage into this, you can consider your operating agreement and your LLC or your corporation paperwork like your prenup. So yeah,
yeah, no,
think of it as a prenup.
it's a rough prenup. It's rough. Partnerships in business are just they can be so difficult, and I have a partnership where one of them, their health has just declined, and now they're not going to get anything.
Wow.
No one's really there to vouch for them, and so because the council is picking sides. And so it's just difficult. Partnerships are difficult. If you do partnerships, the only thing I can advise is have your own attorneys and have your own accountants. And then obviously have one for the business. So keep everything separate. Trust everybody, love everybody. That's great. But have your own counsel and make sure the counsels understand each other, right? Because attorneys can blow anything apart for you. So if your attorney doesn't like your partner's attorney, good luck. You're never going to get anything through ever because attorneys have so much leverage. Nobody will ever be happy, and the attorneys are just going to be pissed off at each other. So have your attorney be on good terms with your partner's attorney. That's something else to mention.
Now that we've absolutely terrified everybody from starting a business with a partner, why don't you go ahead and tell us how you started out? Did you start out as a business broker? Or did you start out in commercial real estate? Because Sierra is a little bit different. She's going to introduce herself. She's a dual threat. So she does not only does she does business brokering, but she also does commercial real estate, which is pretty unique. I have not run into that combination as of yet. So why don't you go ahead and Sierra, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then tell us how you got started. Did you start out in brokering? Did you start out real estate? And then how you came to do the two?
Yeah, so when I was 18, I started my own business, and I've always kind of known that I have a heart for business. I'm 100% an entrepreneur. There's 3 different types of people: the artist, the manager, and the entrepreneur. I am an entrepreneur. I do not have any artist or manager really in me.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I'm the same way. That's what I'm saying.
It's important. I like it. I mean, we need the artists and the managers, but I like to start things and just kind of keep going. And so I started a business at 18. I started running another business at 19. And then I got my residential real estate license when I was 21. And just was really kind of unsure what I wanted. I was really happy in business, and so I knew I wanted to stay in business. So I started running a veterinary hospital when I was 22. Started running a veterinary hospital when I was 22. Still had my real estate license. I did a couple deals. And I was just going to flip the hospital and move on and do something else. And that's exactly what I did. So I got the hospital on its feet. And then I jumped into commercial real estate. I'm not even really sure how it happened. It just worked out. And then I fell into being a business broker. And it was like the best of both worlds, right? I can still utilize my real estate license and my commercial real estate knowledge and get the thrill of business, because now I'm in many businesses every single day. I can see what businesses are doing right and what businesses are doing wrong. And it is truly the most thrilling job. Every day is a new day. It hits my entrepreneurial heart all day long. And so I'm absolutely over the moon to be doing what I do.
That's pretty impressive track record there, because I think by from 18 to about maybe 25 you can describe. I was in the military, and I just got two words to describe it: be drunk and disorderly. So nowhere near as ambitious as you were, by any stretch of the imagination. So that being said, so how do you feel that being a dual threat that you are, how do you feel that it helps you with your clients?
I was not expecting the upside that I have. So the difficult thing with my industry, with being a business broker, is it's male dominated, very much male dominated industry, which is great. And it's a much older generation. You don't see very many young brokers, and I'm not sure why. I've never been able to figure that out. So every single day, I probably get told at least twice how young and alive I am and how I answer my phone calls. So apparently some business brokers don't answer their phone calls. Not sure why on that either. So it's, being in the industry it's exciting. It's exciting. And I have the upside, I think, one, from being a female and being younger. People are with it for whatever reason. I wasn't expecting. I thought it was going to be a bit more challenging being a female in this industry and being younger. Now, there's business brokers who have decades of experience on me, and I fully respect them. But I'm with the marketing. I understand where we are with social media now, and I have an enormous presence on social media, and that's how I'm selling my businesses. And so I think just staying with the times and staying up in front of the times instead of behind the times is what I try to do. And I think that's what gives me my advantage.
Yeah, I would agree, because I say a lot of people that are usually more, how you say, well, consider me more seasoned, if you will. People like myself that are a little more seasoned, we tend to be a little set in our ways, and we kind of do the same thing over and over and over again. Where I learned a long time ago, you got to be innovative. You got to be, I'm not saying I'm as nearly as cutting edge as you are, because you're way on top of this, way more than I am. But at the same time, I know that, payphones went away. I know Blockbuster went away. I know, you see what I'm saying? So you can't just do the same thing over and over and over. You got to, find new ways and be innovative and things like that. And that's the thing I think that you take advantage of, which keeps you relevant. But I also think that makes you, how you say, attracted to the customers. So they're like, hey, she's doing it different. She's doing this. I mean, yeah, the tried and true way, of course, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Okay, I get that to a certain extent. I do that to a certain extent. But at the same time, you got to break a couple eggs to make an omelet. But that omelet's going to taste pretty damn good. So be innovative. Go out there, and you got to be able to push it. You got to be able to adapt and overcome, is what we like to say in the military. So I think that does that. I think that adds a lot of value just by itself.
Well, and this is one of my favorite stories. So before, when Blockbuster was huge, Netflix went to them and asked if they would buy them, if Blockbuster would buy Netflix for just a couple $1 million, and Netflix got laughed at. They were like, absolutely not. Blockbuster would never go away. Why do we need to innovate? And just a few years later, Netflix is worth multi-billions of dollars, and Blockbuster is gone. And so I think about it every day, because I'm constantly trying to innovate, exactly what you said. And so sellers and buyers are coming from all different angles. And if I'm not innovating and staying in front of them, I'm going to be like Blockbuster. And I think, unfortunately, that's what happened with the industry, with the business brokers industry. 80% of companies close instead of sell. And I don't know if it's because they're not educated and that they can sell. 80% of companies just decide to close their doors, and I'll never figure that out. And I think it's just because of the way the business broker industry has kind of turned, and it's not innovative. It just, that's what we do. And so I'm just trying to stay ahead of the times. So
can I, if you don't mind, I'm going to attack this from the financial side, if that's okay. Maybe be relevant for your listeners. What Sierra's talking about is 100% correct, of course. businesses, I don't think, set themselves up for the long term. They don't. When I'm talking to a client, even if it's just a startup business, just now, I'm already talking exit strategy. I'm not saying, hey, we're going to start this business. I'm more of a phase per like, okay, this is what we're doing today, but we got to start. I play chess. Okay, so I'm always thinking 3 moves ahead. Okay, so I try to have my clients do the exact same thing. We got to start thinking exit strategy day one. Okay, because you're not going to do this forever. You're not going to want to do this forever, and you got to have a strategy involved. Whether it's you're going to pass it on to your kids and have a legacy, or you're going to set this up for a sale. Now, that being said, going back to what you were talking about before about having your partners be CPAs, in your business. It's critical, and your attorneys. I covered that in one of my early shows too. That you gotta use your banker, your CPA, and your attorney have to be your best friends in business, because we all got to be on the same page at all times. Ultimately, it's your baby. You make the call. They work for you, but you don't go making decisions without bouncing all three, because all three of those industries, your banker, your CPA, and your attorney, are going to have an effect on your business. When somebody is looking to sell a business, okay, from the banker side of the coin, 2 things are going to happen. Either when you started out, you decided to get paid now, or you wanted to get paid later. When you write off everything, including your shoelaces, just because your CPA says so, because you don't want to pay taxes and you don't want to pay the man, which nobody wants to pay the man. I would abolish the IRS tomorrow if I could, but I can't. So therefore, you have to think long-term exit strategy. Do I want to set this business up to where I get a big pot of gold at the end when I go to sell it, okay? Or do I want to take my money now because I don't want to pay the man, okay? So you gotta think that from day one, because your CPA's, their job is to find you every loophole and write-off you can, so you don't pay as much to the IRS. That is their goal. That's their job. But if you're writing off everything, including your shoelaces, okay, then you want to come to me for a business loan later on. You want to come to me to buy a building, but your company doesn't cash flow because you wrote everything off. Cash flow is king, and especially when you want to go to sell the business later on, and Sarah can attest to this, the first thing you're going to do is look at your books. They're going to look at not your P&Ls, not your balance sheet. They're looking at the tax returns, okay? So they want to see what the tax returns are. So that's where it's important to have that mindset of an exit strategy. Day one, you got to think at the end, because you're going to say, okay, I'm either going to set this up, my kids are going to take this thing over, or like sit down the road, the kids say, hey, I'm going into something else. Okay, now I got to start thinking, okay, I'm going to sell this business, so I'm going to have to start retaining some earnings. I got to make this company actually have some value to it, so that way I can sell it for the big chunk of change and, go deep sea fishing later
on. Yes, exactly. I don't know why. I am trying so hard to educate in this subject, because I am valuing businesses off of the tax returns. I'm not valuing it off of your software report where you're making hundreds of thousands more dollars. So that's great. Your CPA is on your side, but we need to be able to sell your business. And if you have no cash flow, or if you're not paying yourself, that's another thing that is a huge concern for buyers, is if you're not paying yourself and your cash flow is zero. I have negative cash flows. But then I'm like, well, how much are you really making? And they're like, oh, we're really happy, actually. We're making a lot of money. Well, why are we talking about it? Because now your business does not look valuable, and it's going to be a 10 times more difficult sale than a business who is the owners are paying themselves, and the $0 cash flow is not a thing. They have wonderful margins. And, if you want to sell and then continue working, that's great. It happens all the time. But you want to be paying yourself what you want the buyer to be paying you. So if you're only paying yourself $100,000 a year and you want to sell, now you want the buyer to pay you $300,000 a year, that's going to be a problem, because now it's taking away your cash flow again. So pay yourself what you would want the buyer to be paying you post-closing. And don't run your bottom line, because your business is not going to be worth anything. A lot of businesses go off of your bottom line. So don't run your bottom line to zero just to save some money on your taxes.
Those owner's draws sound really sexy because you don't pay taxes on them, but like it'll come back and bite you in the ass right when you need it the most. So.
Yeah, that's definitely something to think about. And for your listeners, Chris, you have a ton of veteran listeners, and that's very appealing for a lot of sellers. It's just like purchasing a house, right? Usually buyers send in letters if they really want the house and the seller can review them. It's the same thing. We're selling the business is a very emotional process. And 99% of my clients want to sell to someone they like. If they don't like you, it's just a horrendous process and everybody's unhappy the entire time. So they want to sell to someone that they like. And so really tell your story and explain why you want to purchase a business. And if it is your first business or if you own multiple companies, really explain that to your broker, to their broker, and so that they can relay that story and try to build that relationship for you.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that you went into that, because that was one of my questions I was going to ask you. I said, so when you're going to sell a business, what is your process that you go through? I mean, with your clients and with your buyers and your sellers. I mean, you gotta, you're juggling. So how's that process? Like, how do you match up these marriages here?
It's gosh, it's a long process. I mean, even going to market, it's very time consuming because there's so many documents that you need and to really just verify things. And so one of the initial questions for my sellers is, who is your ideal buyer? Because that matters. Now, I have had sellers who say, I don't really care. But then when it comes down to it, and I have 5 buyers in front of them, all of a sudden they care. So it really, many sellers like to sell to someone that they like, just because it's their baby. They've spent decades of their lives building something. Why would they want to sell it to someone who doesn't care about it? So equity groups and corporate groups don't get really the upside. So that's why they come in with so much money. So your biggest competition, right, is the corporate groups, because they're going to come in with significantly more money than you ever could. Mm-hmm. But the sellers are so passionate about the business they've built and continuing their legacy that they usually sell to the little guys. Now, some do sell to corporate because the price tag is just enormous. But many times they sell to little guys. So the process, I mean, going to market, right? You go to market and then you get flooded with buyers. And then you're vetting the buyers and seeing who's really a fit, who's serious. A lot of people just like to waste time. I'm not sure why. Also haven't figured that out yet. I don't know if they maybe think they want to purchase a business, but they're not committed. Usually, I don't talk to buyers unless they're pre-qualified. If you're not pre-qualified, you're not serious, because that is the longest process. And Chris can continue with that. It's a long process. So you better get, if you're serious, you'll already be qualified. If you're not, then go get qualified. If you can't get qualified for lending, then that could be a problem. And if the owner is willing to do a seller carry, then that's great. But we also do our own due diligence process. So if you're looking for businesses, because you can't get qualified for an SBA loan, you're looking for businesses who are doing seller financing, there's still a due diligence process. If you have horrible credit and your debt to income ratio is out of control, you probably won't get the company. And so being pre-qualified or speaking with lenders before is the best way to show the broker how serious you are. And that's how you're going to get through. For every 100 buyers I talk to, for every single business I list, usually one only gets through to the seller. And they still don't even get to talk to them. Then it's like more conversations and more conversations. It's a big deal. It's a long process. You could tell me on the call that you're going to pay $200,000 over to the asking price. Great. Let's see some paper. Don't just be all talk. You need to have, I've had buyers send me their resumes, which is wonderful. I love seeing that. Mm-hmm. You have a resume, send me that. I would really rather see how much you're pre-qualified for. But if you need to utilize a seller carry at that point, then come in with your resume and show how serious you really are and that you're not just pulling the broker's leg, because the broker will never respond to you. I try to respond to all of my buyers because that is important to me. But most brokers will just brush you under the rug and know you're not serious and stop wasting their time is usually how that'll go. So just be serious with whatever your intentions are. Just be serious and have the backup for it.
Let me ask you a follow-up question to that, because you're saying you want people to be pre-qualified. before they come in. But now, from a banker standpoint, I'm not going to get a letter of intent out to anybody until I've actually seen tax returns on the buyer, I've actually seen tax returns on the business, and the year-to-date P&L and balance sheets. So, is that something you would facilitate doing to help in the quote-unquote pre-qualifying process?
Absolutely. I'm happy to always give that out. If a buyer comes to me and says, look, my lender, which happens all the time, my lender needs to see the tax returns. Great, here they are. Let me send them to them. And so always willing to do that. And that's someone you can tell who's serious. That's someone who's had those conversations. 80% of the buyers don't have anything set up. 80% of them, and it's because they're just pulling your leg, or they think they're interested in purchasing. I'll never figure that out. I would love to ask them, but I think that would be rude.
I think sometimes, and be quite honest, I think just sometimes there's so much that people don't know. You and I have the luxury of being in this industry. We've been in this industry for a long time. Well, me longer than you, because you're still not that. but at the same time, you've been in it neck deep since you're 18 years old. But you see, I think you're way more financially savvy. Of course, I am, being in the business, to where we have to understand people don't know what we know. You know, that's why they're coming to us. We're the experts. Okay, so they're coming to us, asking us for the advice. Now, going into, I'll flip it back around again to where I'll talk to maybe some of your listeners as well. Everything Sierra is saying, I agree with 100%. And here's how you get married up to the business. It's got to be something. Yeah, you have to be passionate about, of course, because this is, like I said, this is you think it's going to be fun and games. You're like, oh yeah, I love to cook, therefore I want to start a restaurant. When you're turning 500 tables a night, that's not cooking, that's fucking grinding. Okay, so if you're not used to turning 500 tables a night, this isn't cooking for a family party here. This is a grind now. Okay, so it better be something you are 110% committed to. Because like I said, because there's no timeouts. Okay, there's no hey, I gotta hit the pause button here, because once you're all in, you're all in. Okay, so that being said, that's one thing you gotta really get dialed in. If you're gonna do this particular business, you better have some background in it as well, and that's something we can do in your your executive order. Your executive summary. I was like at a loss for words there for a minute. Your executive summary. That's something that we can spell out, because, like I said, I do this a lot where guys are like, they're 11 Bravo, they're infantry guys, right? And they're like, but they want to start a restaurant. They want to, do this, which we can do this. We can make this happen, but we have to work on your executive summary, and we have to, just showcase the skills that we have for, resource management and things like that, personnel management. All those kind of things, but at the same time, you got to start developing some kind of, a lot of people, I think, they say, okay, I want to start, or I want to buy a C-store because I just see the cash, because these things are just, cash cows, or our laundromat. I want to start our laundromat because these things are cash cows. Okay, but what's your background in that? That's the first question I'm going to ask you as a lender. I hear this 1,000 times a day. Okay, I want to buy this business. It's a laundromat, or it's a dry cleaner, it's this, that, and the other, da, 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 da. Okay, the very first question I'm going to ask you is, what is your background in this field? You're going to be like, well, yeah. So you better have done your homework and done your research on, get pretty familiar with that, because I'm guaranteeing you right now, and any lender that's worth his salt, that's going to be the first question they're going to ask you. What is your background in this field?
Well, and mine too. I would say that's one of my first questions, especially for my medical practices. Right now, everybody knows veterinary sales went crazy in 2020. So I have people calling me every single day who want to purchase a veterinary hospital. Well, it's not that easy, right? Like, to purchase a veterinary hospital and run it successfully, one, veterinarians will run you over. They will run you over. Anybody in that industry will run you down if you don't understand the lingo. So, understand that coming into it, because it's going to make it a very long and lengthy process if you don't understand the industry. And buyers call me all the time saying, I think I want to buy a business, I'm just not sure what. Well, this is worse than a marriage. You're
Right.
purchasing a business. And so I think you mentioned earlier startups, 96% of businesses fail in the first 5 years. 96%. Like, that's just a horrific rate. I mean, that's horrible. That makes me want to throw up a little, just because it's so rough. And so I fully support my buyers who are like, well, I think I want to do a startup instead. But this is what I do. Purchase an existing business. Chris, I'm not sure what you advise your clients. I advise mine, of course, because it's what I do. I want you to purchase the business.
Of course you do.
But that's not a statistic that's made up. 96% of businesses fail within the first 5 years. Mm-hmm. That's rough. Yeah, you have a 4% chance of making it. 4%. I mean, I'm sure you'll do it as a listener. I'm sure you got it in the bag. But those are some tough odds to go against. And so if you can purchase a business that went through those first 5 years and went through the struggles and got through it, and now they're very well established, it's much easier to purchase that than doing a startup, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of validity to what you're saying. There's two sides of the coin, right? So, I think, I said you could start your own business, and you like I said, it's going to be a grind. It's 7 days a week. It's 20-hour days. And if you're thinking it's not going to be, you think you're going to like work Monday through Thursday and golf on Fridays, you're flat ass wrong. Number one. But buying a business, an existing business, like you said, has its benefits to where it has a track record, but at the same time, it also has some risk and some pitfalls because like that person who started that business was the drive, they were the passion, they were the and then when you come in, I'll go back to restaurants because I don't know why I do it, but so somebody wants to buy a restaurant, an existing restaurant. Okay, existing restaurant's up and running, great. Or even if it's an office firm, okay, I'm gonna take over this office firm. I'm gonna take over this CPA firm. Okay, well, those people that work there, they're loyal to that person. They're loyal to the current owner, and they may say, hey, you know what? I don't know you. I don't like you. Whatever. I'm out. I'm gone. And then you're restaffing the whole place or whatever, what I mean? Or maybe some key components of it. Or the clients may do the same thing. Like, no, I've had my money with so and so for 20 years. If they're retiring there, then I'm gonna go. Or so there always could be that thing. You know what I mean? So there's good and bad to both. I mean, yeah, like you were saying, they already have the track record and they've gone through those first 5 years of the grind, which is great. And if you can just step in and then take over and then go from there. Not so much plug and play, but I mean, you got to put your own brand on it. But at the same time, don't go in there and be like, "Oh, I'm the new sheriff in town. We're going to completely change everything we've been doing for the last 15 years," because everybody's going to be like, "I'm out. Peace."
Yeah.
But at the same time, you got to still make it yours and make it your brand and do your thing, but do that over time and be gradual about it. Or like I said, there's a lot of risk to the startup. But at the same time, you're doing it. If we can get you go, like I said, if you don't go Cortez on me and burn all your ships and burn all the assets, we can set it up to where it can be a phased in thing. But again, like we say in the military, enjoy the suck, because it's gonna suck for a long ass time until it really gets up and running. There ain't gonna be no cash cow tomorrow. Okay, so
no,
be prepared.
And even when you purchase, I mean, you're just not sitting back living luxurious life. You have to figure out what the heck is going on.
Because there could be a lot of ugly that ain't showing up in them books. You go in them books like, what? Why is my cost of goods so freaking high? Like, hold on a minute, or, where were they hiding the bodies here? Or where were they hiding the bodies there?
Yeah, no, no matter what, business is difficult. I don't know anybody who has ever said business is easy. It's hard. And especially if you're a first timer, you don't understand. Like, you're always, the coin stops with you. You're at 100%. The end of the tunnel. Mm-hmm. So when something's going wrong, or let's say you're really short staffed and they're calling you. Yep. They're not calling anybody else. So you better be able to drop what you're doing at any point and go run your business, because that's just what it takes. And the upsides are great. You're going to have so much more freedom. But you're also not, because you just have to be ready for anything to happen, anything at any time to happen. And that's, I think, why a lot of business owners don't survive. just because they're not willing to make that commitment. They want the 9 to 5 job and
Right.
go home and relax. It's just not what it's like as a business owner. It's just not.
They think they're going to go out and lease that new Maserati, and they're
Mm-hmm.
going to go to lunch, and or like that, like, oh, it's all good, it's all great, yeah, but that Maserati needs gas, it needs insurance, it needs oil changes, which aren't cheap, and
Yeah, there's just a ton to it. I mean, I'm a business lover, so I definitely think it's possible. But I talk to people all the time where they just have no idea, and it's almost heartbreaking because they want to own a business, but then they're like, yeah, you can tell they don't know what they're talking about when they say, I want to own a business for more freedom. Yeah. That's not what's going to happen. Maybe eventually, maybe if you grind and build and prepare, even when you do a transition, you need to plan for a couple years of like in the mud with that staff. There will be staff turnover. There will be client turnover. It's just the way it is. And so you have to be prepared for that. And all of my sellers are more than willing to stay on to ensure a smooth transition because they do want the company to be successful. They built it for decades. And so they want the buyer to be just as successful and more successful. Many of my sellers tell the buyers things that they should have done that they never did. And so this new, young, fresh buyer is coming in and has so much potential, and it's great. I think anybody could do business. You just have to be willing to commit and always be available.
Yeah, like I said, I definitely agree with that because sometimes, as the business owners, maybe as they get a little older, they get complacent. They're not as, like I said, they're not as cutting edge. You're not innovative, and you get some new blood in, and they could really give it that shot in the arm and take it to a whole different level. Where the current owner, like I said, they've been doing it a long time. They might have 1 foot in, but 1 foot is on the boat, ready to go fishing, kind of deal. So, one thing that you touched on, which I think is very important, and I want to reemphasize this, when it comes to the business lending side of it, if you can get a key staff member, like let's say, or like I said, or the current owner, if you can hire, if you can get them to like a contract where they're going to stay on for like maybe 12 months and pay them a certain salary. For consulting, that's a big get.
Absolutely.
That's a big get on the lending side. If we can see that, because so where you maybe lack some direct industry experience, that could be the get that gets you over the top. Because you have that 12 months to have the current owner give you all the knowledge and and things like that, and then having some, make sure that you're getting some key employees in place as well. Like, hey, I'm staying. The current office manager, get them signed to a contract to where it's like, hey, you know what, my current office manager is saying, so the day-to-day is not going to get it. There's not going to be a hiccup in the day-to-day because my current office manager is running it. My current chef is staying on board. They're committed for the next couple years. So my head chef's not going anywhere, and the current owner is staying out as a consultant, things like that. That's going to help us, get the ball over the end zone.
And like I said, almost all of my sellers are so committed to that and making sure that the buyer is successful. And so it's important to them. Now, some have just gone too far and they're so tired they want to retire. And so usually it's only a few months. Yeah, but those are the ones who will also come in for free when you're really struggling. So, I mean, it just kind of depends. They get bored out of retirement pretty quickly. So, but yeah, most of my sellers are so committed to ensuring the buyer is successful. It's important to them.
So, what question might you have for me there, Sierra?
What industry are you struggling lending on?
Good question. Gyms are always difficult, but
really,
they're you want to talk about that 94% fail rate? That's one of them. But I did get a startup gym in Tucson, done and open during COVID. Believe it or not, I got it done. But that was a lot. This lady did it right. She did it right, and she had some outside income. Her husband makes good money on the outside, and even during COVID, when she was training at different gyms, she got really innovative and did a lot of Zoom training and all kinds of cool stuff to keep the cash flow coming. She kept her independent business running, and then she was like, okay, I want to start my own gym. And the cash flow worked, and she did it, and she got really innovative. It was really super cool. But gyms are tough. Restaurants, of course, are always high high closure. So a lot of banks won't even look at a restaurant. They won't even look at a gym. For a while there, contractors were really taboo too. But now contractors are going like madmen, especially in this town. So I think maybe that's a little more open. Those were always the big three taboo. Was always restaurants, gyms, and contractors. But I still think you're gonna have a little. I mean, like I said, if you have some background in this, you have some industry experience, and then some, and it helps you, like I said. So if let's say you have a spouse, a significant other, that is does have some good outside income and can feed the kids and pay the mortgage until this gym gets up and running, and you have that background, you have the industry experience. Okay, that makes it a little more plausible. You know what I mean? So
that's okay. So I've never sold a gym, mostly because they just closed. Do you know the average cash flow for a gym? Because I see gyms close like every day. I mean, it's common. Even before COVID, gyms closed all the time. And so, what is their cash flow? Do you know?
There's no way to really quantify that. I mean, as far as gyms make this and. I wouldn't think there's because every business is run so different. I mean, you could have two of the same gym or two of the same restaurants, or just something like your cost of goods, or some people they run all their personal expenses through the business, and all or some people won't, and so there's really no way to. I personally I don't know of any. Maybe if you talk to like a CPA, they might kind of have a more of a general idea, but I wouldn't have that off the top of my head. Gyms usually cash flow at X or.
Well, because restaurants, right, are about 10%. 10% or less is typically their profit margin, and that's why restaurants are so difficult to lend on, and many just close instead of being sold. And so, if gyms, and that's interesting because I know how much money I pay for gyms,
right?
So, and I know how much money everybody else pays. So I would just love to know why gyms are failing so much, and if it is the owner, if the owners are just really relying on their CPAs to discount their taxes, or what is making them go under. I would love to know that, because
I think any business, I think any business, if you really think about it, whether it's a gym or whether it's a restaurant or whatever. So let's say for instance, somebody who's a great trainer, great personal trainer, okay, loves fitness, loves it. But they don't know the books. They don't know what it takes to keep, and they'll bring somebody in that maybe that they trust to run the books, and they start skimming off the top, and so there's so many different variables, and that could be like a heavy cash business. So of course your CPA is like, oh yeah, you don't want to show that you make too much money, so and then the businesses run like crap. So I think that it's more of a I wouldn't necessarily put it so much as the gym, quote unquote, per se, but it's how you run a business just in general. Having you got to be able to run the front end and the back end. Like I said, a lot of people are great. Like I said, let's just say say I'm a really good chef. Okay, I like to cook. Okay, so I get this idea in my head. I want to start a restaurant. Okay, but I said turning 500 tables a night is really hard work, plus managing the staff, plus hey, the cost of cheese just went up because there was some big freaking freeze in Wisconsin and half the cows are dead, so now your cost of goods just skyrocketed. So so it's so there's all those different variables, and not everybody kind of plans for that, and they're running, like I said, those really tight margins, and maybe they're not retaining enough earnings to say, hey, what if the oven breaks down, what if the staff walks out, like I said, what if the cost of cheese goes through the roof? How are we insulated for that? How are we preparing for that? So maybe that's kind of like the thing. It's like, hey, you know what? I'm a great trainer. I want to train people. I want people to be healthy. Hey, are people as dedicated to this as you are? Is because your client's like, hey, I'm gonna go on vacation for 2 weeks. Then I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna quit my membership because I gained 50 pounds, or so there's a lot of that involved as well. Or you got some super huge conglomerate gym just open up down the street for $6 a month. You know what I mean? And
yeah, which I would, because the bigger gyms, of course, don't close as often as the smaller ones, but they do have so much happening. But I think you kind of mentioned it earlier. They love what they do. So you have the artist. So the small gym owner is an artist.
Yeah.
They love sculpting bodies. And so
True.
maybe they lack the entrepreneur side and the manager side.
That's
And,
a good way to look at it. Yeah.
It takes all three. It really does. I could never run a business by myself because I would be on to the next so soon. And I wouldn't stabilize like the manager would, and I wouldn't make it perfect like the artist would. And so maybe that's what's happening. I don't know. I would love to talk to a gym owner. So if you have any listeners that are gym owners, I would love to talk about your financials.
Yeah.
So give me a call. I really love to talk. I'm just curious. I'm honestly curious how they do it, what's going wrong with the industry, because so many fail. And so why, and how can we help, and how we can prevent them from failing?
You know what's funny? I mean, you kind of, and this is coming from like, now I've been working out since 13 years old. Okay, so I've been in and around bodybuilding and powerlifting since I was 13 years old, and I'm very old now, so I've been doing this a very long time. And I think the one thing that since we're talking about gyms, and anybody out there saying about starting a gym, I see this every day, and it makes me, I want to start choking people. I swear to Christ, I want to kill them. They have these people that are extremely out of shape, that have no basics, and they got them doing all these advanced workouts, jumping and throwing kettlebells around and doing stupid shit because they saw it in a magazine. It's like, dude, you got to build a foundation. The basics aren't there. You got to be brilliant at the basics, like my friend Moses Sanchez says. Be brilliant at the basics. Teach them the core fundamentals first before you got them doing rope crunches and crap like that. Like, they don't have any foundation. You got to build their foundation before you get them doing freaking, clean and jerks. It's like, are you kidding me right now? You think because that's the new trendy thing? Doing box jumps and shit like that? That's when I have all my clients 50 pounds overweight, and they're 60. What are you doing, dude? Really? I want to literally walk up and slap the taste out of people's mouths when I see them doing that shit. But it makes me crazy. So I think that's a lot of the reason why gyms fail, because like I said, these trainers are in there training them like they're freaking, like they're getting ready for the Olympia. It's like, dude, they don't even know how to do a push-up. What are you doing?
And your bodies, especially if you haven't worked out your whole life, or if you really are out of shape, your body is like your temple, and so you have to be mindful of what's happening. And so to have a trainer who will tear your body apart, that's a bit scary. It's scary.
Like I said, I've seen it once, I've seen it 1,000 times. I remember one time I literally walked up to a trainer and embarrassed the crowd. I was like, dude, stop. Just go away. Yeah, you're stealing it. Because I just couldn't take it more. Like, you're going to hurt this person. You're going to get literally physically hurt if you keep having them do this. They don't have the core fundamental principles to get this job done. Walk away right now before I kick your ass in the parking lot. And I was serious about it, too. I was pissed. I was like, no, I'm not allowing this. I don't care. They can kick me out of this gym. I could care less. But the manager came up and thanked me, as a matter of fact. Because you saved me from getting sued by somebody. Like, yeah, hello, you may want to, interview these trainers a little bit. Just saying.
That's scary. That's really scary. And it's just, it's put into business terms, right? If you threw someone into a business that's been operating for 20 years and they've never even looked at a financial statement, the business is going to crash and burn. It's going to crash and burn. And so it's the same thing with your body. That's how I would look at that.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I went off on a tangent there. I went off the rails.
That's okay.
I'm very passionate about it. Like, I've been doing this a long time, and I see it every day, and it makes me just want to vomit.
No, I think it's important. You need to trust your trainer, and so maybe, I don't know. I would love to really talk to a gym owner, though, like a small gym owner, and talk about their financials.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Hopefully, I said they'll listen to this show and they'll be like, you know what, I should really get with my CPA and my attorney and kind of go over this plan a little more here, because I was just like, hey, I like wearing my cute little outfits and walking around with my smoothies and everything.
Yeah, and really see your bottom. I'm curious. I've never even seen one for sale, because they just don't really sell. The equipment can sell. And so it's an asset sale. It's a straight asset sale, but
for pennies on the dollar.
Yeah. So I guess for gym owners, if there's any gym owners or people who want to open a gym, we should really talk, because I want to know like your end goal. Because if you are going to sell the business, I'm sorry, my dog is squeaking her toy. If you are going to sell the business, will we be able to? Will you have ran a successful business? And I guess the same thing with restaurants. I mean, if you have a restaurant that has liquor, then your sales are significantly higher and you have a much better profit margin than any other restaurant, but still they're difficult to sell. They're difficult to sell. And so, yeah, anyways, that's interesting. I never really thought about it like that.
Well, I said that's some food for thought for both sides, for both your listeners and mine. That are thinking about getting into these things. Like, hey, I want to buy this restaurant, I want to buy this gym, or I want to start my own gym. They're like, wow, I didn't really even consider that. So I think even though we went off on a tangent and went off the rails a little bit, I think at the same time we gave a lot of people a good food for thought, because this is the thing. Like on my show, what I want to do, I want to inspire veterans to pursue their passions and start their own businesses. So if you do want to start a gym or you do want to start a restaurant, great. But the name of the show is called Here's the Deal, because we give it to you straight. It's straight whiskey, no chaser. Like, I'm not playing games here. I'm not going to sit here and blow sunshine up your ass and tell you, oh yeah, that's great. Well, I'm like, okay, cool, you got passion for it, but here are the things you got to look out for, and kind of you make sure we're game planning for this thing. So, like I say, even though we went off the rails a little bit, I think it was a lot of good intel for both audiences, I think.
I think so too. And many people who want to start businesses, it usually is restaurants or it's in the fitness industry. And so I guess my advice for that is, yes, speak to your team, but also find someone who you admire who's running their business and ask if you can see their financials. It's a very personal question, but if you're very transparent about it and say, look, I'm thinking about starting this business, but I don't know, is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? Can you tell me about yours? I mean, can you tell me what your bottom line is? And if you're running your cash flow to the ground, I mean, people love the transparency, and I think you'll have a ton of people open up to you and tell you what is happening in their business, what they would do differently, what they wouldn't. And so try to put your ego aside and really listen before you start your business and turn into that 96% failure rate. And really find someone you admire that's running a successful business and look at their financials and have them tell you everything they did right and wrong, and learn from them, and do that again and again and again and again. And that's how you'll be that 4% success rate.
Yeah, that's cool. I have one more question for you, Sarah, if you don't mind. So can you explain the benefits maybe of leasing space, and then also how do you, like, I know with my clients, like I said, we're looking at this as chess. So we're looking at moving in phases here. So of course, generally businesses start out leasing space, of course, at first, but then I plant that seed in their head. Okay, you're going to do this for a couple years, but you want to make sure your books are tight. You want to make sure your profit margins are good, because like in a couple years, you're going to want to buy the real estate as opposed to lease it. So that way you can have that legacy to where you can sell the operating company and you can still collect the lease as like your retirement income on top of the money that you get from the actual sale of the operating company. So that's the way I like to kind of set my clients up, to have that. Again, I like to think 3 moves ahead. I play chess, so I want them to think of this as a chess game and as a chessboard, and position their power pieces in the middle and attack from there. So can you maybe explain the benefits of leasing and how you position your clients for the leases, and then how you position your clients for the purchase?
Yeah, so it really depends on the buyer, and most buyers come in with their mind already set whether they're going to lease or purchase. I can say my piece, but many times they come in set, they've decided. I would say probably 80% of my buyers want to purchase commercial real estate, which I fully support. I'm all for it. It is a safe place to put your money, because even if your business crashes and burns, you have commercial real estate that you can sell. And so I like buying commercial real estate. Now, some people like to lease, and that's completely fine. With leasing, something I've seen a few times recently, and it crushes my soul, is I just had a doctor purchase commercial real estate with only 2 years left on the tenant's lease. He purchased. So when you purchase commercial real estate, you go for what's the lease is in place for. And the tenant was in that place, in that space for almost 30 years. And so with 3% annual increases, they were paying way above market for their property. I mean, like almost triple above market. So I can look at market comps right now for lease, and they're paying that. They're in that 3% annual increase. And so my client that I just found out purchased this commercial real estate for what that lease was in place for, and he didn't have anybody representing him. So he purchased commercial real estate with triple the market rate term in place and only 2 years left on that lease. And now the tenants are vacating. He'll never get that money back. He'll never get that money back. We are now dropping the lease 3 times. Like, it's painful. And there's absolutely nothing I can do. Like, I mean, buyers or people who want to lease the space know market rates. I mean, it's not easy, or I mean, it's not hard to find out. And so it crushed me when I found out, like, my hands are tied. He purchased commercial real estate without any advisors in place. And if I even had a second to look at that and realize that there was only 2 years left on that lease, I never would have encouraged him to move forward.
You're like, walk away from it.
I mean, yeah, with that tenant that was in place for almost 30 years and those increases, just kill me now. Right. So if you do purchase commercial real estate, even as an investment, I love it. Great. That's so great to hear you're doing it as an investment. But understand, with those 3% annual increases or whatever increases are on the lease, if you don't have a 10-year lease in place, you probably shouldn't purchase it as an investment. Now, if you're if it's owner occupied, right? If you're going to be in this space, I think it's great to purchase commercial real estate, and then you can lease it out to the buyer if you want to, or you can sell it. Many of the times, my sellers are okay with either. Many of the times, they're okay with leasing it to the buyer, and then sometimes they'll sell it to an investor, or the buyer will purchase it. It really just depends on what the buyer wants. If the seller is like adamant about selling both and the buyer doesn't want to, then we sign a lease and sell to an investor. Mm-hmm. So there's both ways. So if you're not going to get really stuck with your commercial real estate, because the buyer would come in, purchase your business, sign a lease, and we would immediately sell to an investor, and investors love that. Mm-hmm. I have money being thrown at me all the time from investors. So I think it's great to purchase. I mean, you can sign a lease too. I fully support that. Just understand, if you sign a lease, you can leave at any time, which is wonderful. But I usually try to lean towards, if it was me, I would purchase.
Well, you can't leave at any time. You got to obviously honor the lease, but
right. Leases are like a mortgage. Leases are rough. Leases are rough to get out of, and always have. I guess another piece is you should have a representative before you go leasing a property. Okay, anywhere, I don't care, where the locations. That doesn't mean crap. Okay, you got to have somebody representing you. If it's not going to be somebody like Sierra, you got to have a commercial representative representing you, because the person that's leasing the property, the landlord, they're going to have somebody representing them. And I guarantee you, like I said, I've seen this 100 times too, where somebody's going to go lease a property, they're going to go lease this space, and the owner is trying to get the new tenant coming in to replace all the air conditioning or fix the plumbing that's been jacked up for 10 years and this and that and the other, where a good tenant rep who's representing you as the person going into the lease, they're going to point out all that stuff, and they're going to say, hey, no, they're not doing this. You're going to do this before you move in, or whatever, or they're going to tell you, this guy's trying to pass off all his problems onto you. So, and that happens like quite a bit. So that's one of those pitfalls of leasing a space. But yeah, it's convenient because of the fact that, it's obviously when you're buying a piece of commercial real estate, it's a huge investment. You may not have the capital for it up front, but at the same time, when you get the second you get a chance to buy that real estate, by all means, I highly recommend it for sure. Well, and this is the last thing I want to say about that is I have another client that I'm working on with to hopefully sell their business, and they've been in their space since early 2000s, so almost 20 years. They've had the 3% annual increases. Now they're paying way above market, double above market, and that's unfortunate, because they didn't have it. When you're up for a renewal, get a broker. if you sign your lease before having a broker, I think it's silly because landlords are going to do the brokers for the landlords are going to do anything they can to get you to sign.
Of course.
They represent the landlords. They do not represent you, no matter what they say. They don't care anything about you. They want to get a lease in place and service their client, which is the landlord.
The landlord, not
you. So my client has never had a broker, and they're paying way above market. There's absolutely nothing we can do there in their lease. There is nothing we can do. There's nothing, just absolutely nothing. And thankfully, when the new buyer comes in, the lease will be up so that we can renegotiate the lease to market rates. But I mean, what if none of that happened? They've been paying over market for years now. We're talking like $20,000 a year over market. What could you do with that kind of money? You don't pay your broker representing the tenant. You don't pay us. The landlord has to pay us. So I'm fortunate to be with a company where we only represent one side, which is the tenant side. We do not represent landlord. And so just get a broker. I mean, you don't even have to pay them most of the time. Like, they're just here to save you money and be fair. The landlord's broker, they're just trying to service their client, which I support. Serve your client. That's what you're here for. But let your broker serve the bill and not even have to pay the bill.
Yikes. Sorry about that. The wire went haywire there. I apologize for that.
No, that's okay.
The wire is connected to my phone or doing the interview. I'm like, oh, now I hit it and sorry about that. I couldn't agree with Sierra more. I said, before you even think about leasing out a space, you better get somebody to represent you, because a landlord damn sure has somebody representing them. Like I said, they ain't looking out for your costs. So, Sarah, do you have any more questions for me for your listeners?
I don't. I think we gave them so much information. I hope they
check it out. I know. Yeah, we kind of went all over the place a little bit, but I think like I said, I told you we're gonna have fun no matter what. So that's the one thing. So, Sarah, why don't you go ahead and maybe give everybody your contact information if they want to reach out to you.
Yes, you guys. My phone number is 602-363. 5832. My name is Sierra Wolfe. I'm literally on every social media platform, so you can find me. It's not difficult. And Chris, you please do the same.
Okay, so here's the deal, which we didn't get a chance to talk about. I think I might have sent you something. I'm in the middle of a transition, so
right.
I shouldn't really probably say this out loud at the moment, but I'm going to just say it anyway. I'm going to a different bank. My current bank doesn't know this yet. So they're gonna find out. But yeah, you can reach me at 623-308-9732, and until I make that transition, I can always talk to you about about the lending side, because where I'm going, we're doing SBA loans. We're doing 7As and 504s. Plus, I get to do deals all over the country, which is great. So I'm loving that opportunity. So you can just reach me 623-308-9732. I'm more than happy to talk to you about hey, I want to do this deal, and I'll give you, like I said, I'm gonna give it to you real, and tell you, okay, here's what you got to do, here's what we're gonna look for, so on, because it's pretty general across the board on a lot of it. Some banks have some different variances on what they want to do. Maybe some, like I said, some industries they won't lend to, some things they won't do, or some they will. But even if it's not something I'm going to be able to do at my new place, I know everybody in this industry. I'll find a home for you one way or the other. Or I'm going to tell you, hey, you're not ready yet, but here's what you need to do. Let's look at it a year or two down the road.
I think that's awesome. I'm so glad we did this. It was so much fun.
Right? Yeah, listen, it didn't turn out to be as train wreck-ish as I thought. except for me hitting that wire there and getting all that feedback.
I think that was fun.
But like I said, I knew it was going to be fun one way or the other. And it was innovative. I don't know of too many people that do dual interviews on shows, so I think that was kind of cool.
That's right. They don't.
Yeah, how many people do you know? Like, you ever see, two people like, hey, going banter, asking questions back and forth, things like that. So I thought, when we came up with this idea, I was like, that's gonna be pretty cool, I think, And I'm glad because you had your podcast started before I did, but then you kind of took a little hiatus because you were moving and stuff. So I'm glad I was able to kind of give you the little nudge to get back out there and get it going.
I'm so grateful. I'm really, really glad we did this, and it was completely your idea. So you're the innovative one.
Well, maybe on this one, but like I said, obviously you put a lot of energy behind it, so it was definitely a team effort for sure.
Well, thank you. It was good speaking with you. I'm excited to speak with your listeners.
And I'm excited to speak to yours too. So let's see what we do to keep this thing rolling.
All right. Thank you, Chris. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, we're out.
Bye.
As always, here's the deal. In closing, first of all, just like to give thanks to my Lord Jesus Christ for blessing me with the ability to do this show and for the forgiveness of my sins and just everything that He's done for me over the years, as far as saved my life endless times, and the sacrifice He made for me. Also, gotta give a shout out to my wife and my kids for supporting me in this new endeavor and the new directions we're going, and all the support that they provide, encouragement they provide for me. My boy Mario outside the wire and Fallen 360, and his wife Crystal, like I said, give me the kick in the ass I needed to get this thing going, help me out with some equipment and get me squared away on stuff and just keep me motivated. Like I said, he's always going to be my partner in crime. As we always say here in the close, stay tuned, stay focused, stay motivated.